Well, in episode 683 of the Barcelona podcast, brought to you by the Blue Wire Podcast Network, I'm Dan Hilton, and to help me prepare for what is maybe the biggest week since I started doing this show 7-8 years ago, it feels like there are two big matches this coming week, and I can't talk about all that alone. So to help me do that, of course, is our old friend Domagoj of Barca Football. Well, I'll just say Dom. So welcome back to the show, Dom.
Thank you so much, Dan. I think you're one of the only content creators who actually tries and pronounce my surname, which is highly appreciated. No one does that. But yeah, Dom will do just fine. Thank you so much for having me again.
Well, the key is you got to put up that shield. People let me know in the comments on YouTube or on social media when I say things wrong. And at some point, you just kind of accept that. And I think in humility, Dom, you know this, like the best thing that content creators can say, but the thing that hurts our bottom line the most is I was wrong. Because I was wrong means people are like, this guy's not credible. But also saying I was wrong does show like maturity and growth and all those things that I think as fans and aficionados, we definitely don't have. So one of the things I was wrong about was the prediction score preview that I had said on Watch Along on Big Up for Mallorca. I thought it was going to be 2-0. It wound up being 1-0. But we don't really need to get into talking too much about the detail there. There's basically three big questions that I have coming out of that match. And that is, does Lamine Yamal try too much? Should Ansu Fati get more minutes? And how does Barcelona survive without Balde and Lewandowski? And so, Dom, as the guest, those are our three topics that we're going to talk about before we do Copa del Rey, Copa del Rey, I'm sorry. Copa del Rey, that's another preview, but the Copa del Rey final preview or the Inter Milan first leg preview. So those are the 5 things on tap for today. And we're going to do the previews later. But of those 3 questions I asked you, Lamine Yamal, Ansu, or Barcelona without Balde and Lewandowski, what do you want to dive into first?
Let me have a think. I think Ansu Fati. Let's do that one because before the game there was a report. Remember, there was a report stating Ansu is going to start the game, and I famously tweeted, "No, Ansu Fati and myself have about the same chance of starting a game of FC Barcelona." And oopsies, that famously backfired. People are saying, "Oh, Dom, you're starting the Copa del Rey game now," and I'll go in there. I'll go in there as ball boy. That's absolutely fine. But yeah, that was a big surprise of the whole game, and it was a good surprise, to be honest with you. Obviously, we all want Ansu to be the player that he once was. Whether that's happening or not, that's a different question. But we all want him to succeed, no matter the recent, the speculations and all the progress in his, departure and whatnot. But I think it was a good showing by Ansu. I think that's what I'm going to say at first before you dive into a bit more. I was pleasantly surprised because I did not expect it, to be honest with you, because Flick usually, he does speak highly of Ansu, and he did speak highly of Ansu multiple times over the past couple of months even, but then he never plays, and that kind of, we all expected him to be underperforming even if he plays, and then for him to just come on and do that, because that was a very good performance. I think it raises more questions than it gives us answers, because then why is he not playing if he's good enough? Because we have seen him do things that he can do that he does better than some other players on the squad as well. So I think this was a performance that raised more questions than it gave answers, and I think that would be a good place to start if you ask me. So let's get that.
Yeah, I think with Ansu, to your point, I was really impressed by the performance because of, I think, one thing more than anything else was that for a player that has played 4 of his 5 league appearances, he's made 5 total league appearances this year. They came from October the 6th to November the 10th. So we have not seen him in the Liga since November the 10th. His Liga stats this year, 187 minutes, and 0.82 goal XG, which means he averages less than a goal every time he's on the field as an XG, not even goal. He doesn't have any goals or assists this season. 9 shots total, 44% on target. He's in the 30th percentile in those categories, by the way. And it's a little bit higher in per 90, obviously, because he's basically just a substitute. 10 appearances total this season, 253 total minutes. So he will likely not even reach 300 total minutes on the season. 3 appearances in 2025, including a 28-minute cameo against Barbastro 4 days into the new year. So as we know, he's really just played against Dortmund and then the start against Mallorca, which is his first start of the season. So number-wise, none of that really matters because he doesn't play enough to categorize him or compare him to anybody else. All we know is, having seen the eye test, to your point, the thing that stood out to me is that for a player that does not play at all, he seemed to have the match tempo down faster than I thought he would. Because I think that's what happens, right? When you have a player that doesn't play at all, they seem to just be a step slow to it. And we even see Gavi coming back from that injury, whether it's injuries, whether it's not playing, being rotated. I think Pau Victor, this happens to him a lot. The first 5 minutes, he's only played for 15 minutes at a time, but the first 5 minutes or so, he just seems like he's a bit off it, and then he finds the game after about 10 minutes, which is what you have to do as a sub. But for me, I was really impressed by the fact, and the numbers back that up too. Ansu wasn't really dispossessed in ways that we have seen him in other appearances when it feels like he's pushing. It didn't feel like he was forcing anything, and he was kind of playing within himself in the player that he is. And that player, what we've seen, as you said, is a talented player. And even the defensive side of it, the defensive numbers were really supportive of him and said, hey, this guy put in a shift. He's not Rafinha, of course not. But on that left side, he put in a shift. He defended well as a team. And there's very little more that we could have asked from him in that appearance. So that only question then is that, will he get more minutes? I think the answer is no, but also why not? If that makes sense, right? Like between the Copa del Rey and it's so tough though, because then we immediately look at the 5 remaining fixtures that Barca has in the Liga. Of those 5 games, I mean, I'm putting him in marker for starting him against Real Valladolid, who are a second division side at this point. Like they're not intending to win right now. So just Ansu Fati starting against Real Valladolid. But how does he start in the Liga against Real Madrid, Athletic Club, Villarreal, and I'm missing somebody, but that's not an easy one either. So yeah, I don't know where he gets those minutes because you have basically all finals. All these matches really matter. So yeah, he'll start against Real Valladolid, but yeah, I just don't know where he'll get those minutes. I think the bigger question, Dom, is for you would be, we know what minutes he's going to get the remainder of this season. Maybe there's some surprise minutes, but realistically, we understand where he'll play this season. But are those minutes going to come from next season in a Barcelona uniform? That's that's the bigger question, right? Is there enough of this player if he's willing to lower his salary, right? If he takes a longer contract extension, which is either what we saw with Langley and Umtiti, where the club was, they signed them for multiple years so that they could potentially move them on at a lower salary because no team wants to pay 13.8 million for Ansu Fati. That's just not the case. So if he extends his contract out, then Barcelona have a cheaper player on their books. So he's much more valuable at that number for them. Or B, they could loan him out or they could sell him, and clubs are much more willing to take that contract over multiple seasons at a lower number. So the question is, one match against Mallorca doesn't change your view of his career at Barca, but also what does it? I don't know. That's like the bigger question I'm wondering.
I think it kind of tells us that he's not playing because he's not good enough. He is good enough. He can be. See, every time I saw him play, even before was it against Dortmund, you said, I think that game on the stream after the game, I said, look, Ansu Fati is obviously not the player that we know that he should become or could have become. But I always see a useful player whenever he plays, right? There are some basics and fundamentals that he always does well. And there are some things in football that you will inevitably lose with age, that you will lose with not playing, that you will lose with, being injured or whatnot. But there are some things that you will not lose. There are some things that a player will always have with them. And I think Ansu Fati has a lot of those fundamentals that will always remain with him, like the sense of just the understanding of space and how to move, when to move, the smell for this, how to exploit the space, and even the ball striking, I would say, which has deteriorated a little bit, I would say, but still there. So those are some of the things that I think he will always bring to the team. And no matter how bad, quote unquote, he is, I think he will always be useful in such a way. A profile will be useful at least. And I kept saying that, and we saw that. So I think it's not the case of him being not good enough or not being valuable in any sense. It has to be something else. So my other point to that was maybe it is just financial. Maybe it is just Barca trying to say to him, look, you're not going to play, so you better you're off somewhere else, right? You better go and try your luck somewhere else. So maybe they are trying to get rid of him. That would be my next best guess, because this player seems useful, and now he hasn't played for a while, and then he comes on and puts up a show. Well, puts up a show might be a bit of a stretch, but he did really well. It tells me that this player could be used, but is not being used purposefully. Like Flick knows what he has on his hands, and he's been saying good things about Ansu. And I think that Flick says what he means most of the time. And I always, when he's talked about Ansu and said, okay, he's doing really well in training, he's really a really good player, I can see his future here, I always believed Flick for some reason. I didn't think that he was saying just for the sake of saying it and pleasing the fans and whatnot. I always believed what he was saying, and I still believe that he thinks that Ansu is valuable, but now it could be the club trying to get rid of him for the financial reasons. Now, if Ansu was to lower his salary, as you say, maybe there could be a way for him to actually stay at the club. But then again, if he's one of those players who can be sold potentially for, I don't know, what some Barca could get. And if Barca really want to buy someone else this coming summer, maybe Ansu, maybe they are thinking, okay, maybe we better sell him than keep him because we don't know what he's going to be like. So I think it's more of a financial aspect than it is sporting or tactical or whatever. Because tactically or sportingly or profile wise, I still see a valuable player there. And to your point, he's not Rafinha, but look at the difference between having a Rafinha left wing and having Ansu left wing. Ansu generates so much football, and yes, he was Mallorca. I mean, he had such a dominating game state that you have to put a little bit of an asterisk against his name, because it was a very much a game state in which favors a lot of our players, Ansu included. But he generates so much football. The connectivity that he does, the link up, the first touch, the small space orientation that he had. I mean, that all those things, Rafinha doesn't really give you that. Rafinha does make you a bit more vertical, does make you a bit more direct. He does give you more output than Ansu absolutely does. But having a profile like Ansu on the left wing, it changed everything. It was really refreshing to see, to be honest with you. And I think there could be a world which he is salvageable because his profile is that valuable. Now, physically and mentally, how salvageable is that? I don't know. Because he would have to play a bit more. I think one of the reasons why he was subbed off at the 60 minutes is because he was probably gassed. He probably was
Yeah.
running a bit low on the fuel wise. But I think overall it was a promising sign. And even if Barca wanted to sell him, does not make a bit more sense to kind of put him in the window and show the world, okay, he is still there. He can be
Yeah.
bought and he can be actually a useful player for someone else. Now, maybe not for us because we have Rafinha, we have Ferran, we have all these players, we have Olmo, and we're potentially planning to buy another left back as well, or left winger rather. Sorry. So maybe playing him, I don't know. It feels like is the right thing to do, right? No matter if you want to sell him or not, playing him should be beneficial to Barca, especially if he's useful, and he seems to be useful to me. So it's a bit of a. I think it's all financial at this point. That would be my guess, Dan.
Yeah, I mean, I think there were other matches that he should have been displayed, though. As I just said to
Mm-hmm.
you, there's only a few matches left this season, and this is not the time to shop a player in a window or anything like that. It's time to win trophies. And yeah, I agree to pretty much all you said. So I think it does come down to being financial, but I also think that with the way that the fans kind of support him, it almost like I wonder if that reaction and that ovation does kind of, as much as we believe it's all, as much as you and I, Dom, tend to be cold. Sometimes it is just about the vibes and the feelings. And if the whole stadium is giving an ovation to Antu and saying, "Hey, we want you here, we love you," then that kind of forces the club's hand a little bit as well, more than we might anticipate. It might be a little more emotional than we thought, even though Hansi Flick is the same way. Like, I either like him or I don't. I'll play him if I don't, right? It doesn't seem to be that way. And the other thing I want to reiterate, I said in the 5 headlines, to if your audience is listening, that if Ansu and Hector Fort, who seemed to, against, what was it, Celta last week, they apparently had like a conniption fit and all that stuff. But if it was really that bad, then Hansi Flick would have not had them play, and the teammates wouldn't be supporting them. But they got starts right afterwards, so it's like I think that's overblown. And don't let other media kind of get your way into it. Now, we're going to have a negative topic, but I can tell you, having already known the yes or no answer to this, that listen, the question is negative. The answer probably isn't. Does Lamine Yamal try too much? That's a bigger question. Is he pushing too hard? Are all the different accusations, the fact that he seems to only shoot at the top corners? Why doesn't he just shoot low and hard and try to create some kind of rebound for opposition? Why is he constantly trying Trivelas with the outside of his boot instead of just trying an easier pass? I'm being reductive here, so I guess I'll give you the easy yes or no, and then I'll give my reason with a lot of boring numbers. So, Dom, before everyone takes their nap, before I back this up with numbers, does Lamine Yamal try to do too much?
Yes. I'm gonna go with yes.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Okay. All right.
I'll go with
Wow.
yes.
All right.
I'll go with yes just to spice things up. I know what you're
Awesome.
gonna say, and yes, I do agree with what you're gonna say. I know what you're gonna say
I'm
because
gonna say,
and
hell no. That's what I'm
yeah,
gonna
yeah,
say.
yeah, and
I'm
I'm
gonna
gonna
say
agree
absolutely
with
not.
that. Yeah, I know. It's a bit. See, if it was a bit more of a yes and no question, then I would say something in between. But I'm gonna go
Sure.
with yes for now. But yes for a good reason. I think Lamine is starting to develop some sort of, I don't want to say an ego, but he's starting to develop a hero syndrome a little bit, and I think that's good for a player of his potential, of his talent, because you need every player, even Lionel Messi. People might not agree with that, but Messi has a massive ego as well, and you need that to be the best player. on the planet. And if Lamine wants to be more than he is right now, he will need to develop that side of the game as well, the mental side. Now, does he try too much? I think sometimes he does try a bit too much by himself. I mean, I feel like, and that this might be a bit controversial as well. I think for every 2 or 3 goals that he creates, he also takes away at least one, maybe. See, and he is still a massive net positive. I'm not saying that he's not. Obviously, he is. He is, in the top 2 players that we have in the club at the moment. But I do think that there are some moments in which he should. I don't know. Just decision making could be a bit better, and I think this has been the case for the last couple of weeks. It hasn't been the case the whole season. Now, it could be, I don't know, people put it down to fatigue. Now, fatigue can be a big factor in everything because fatigue is not just you can't run much. Fatigue also impacts how well you execute your basic things. So the passing, the shooting, all of that is affected by fatigue. And also decision making can be as well because fatigue, it is not necessarily just physical thing. It can be a mental thing as well. So I feel like Lamine does have this in him now that he thinks, okay, I want to be the hero. I want to be the guy all the time because I know I can. So I will try and bail my team out every single time. So maybe that aspect is there. I think that he is starting to not believe the hype because that would be not the right thing to say, but he is starting to see that if someone can change the tides in a tough situation, it's going to be him. It can be him, and it often has been him. And I think it's important that he does believe that he can do that, and he does do that quite often. But sometimes, yes, maybe it may lead to him doing a bit too much. Now, would I discourage him from doing too much? No, I would not, because players like him need to keep trying. And if a player can keep trying despite some things not really panning out the way that he wants to, that's also a good sign for a player of his caliber and of his profile, especially. People always complain about, okay, dribblers lose a lot of balls. I mean, Dembele was always criticized for losing too many balls, but that's just the way that he plays. He tries so many dribbles that it's statistically impossible that he retains most of them, right? It's just not going to happen. So I would always encourage Lamine to keep trying and keep going. Even now, when sometimes it does feel maybe that he's trying too much, but I would not discourage him from that. So that would be my half-baked answer to that question. I try to go the neutral route, but I still will say a bit yes, sometimes yes.
So here's what I give you. I do think that the fatigue thing is a real thing, and I do think that Lamine Yamal from the last 4 weeks and the things he's doing are a little bit different than the prior rest of the season. So I do think the numbers I'm about to throw at you, Domagoj, are quite a bit skewed by the success that the team did have in the prior 12 weeks before the last 4 weeks. All that said, though, the numbers still very much tell us that we are likely biased by the fact that he is capable of the positive every single time. Like if Lamine did everything that we want him to do and he made the right decision every time, Barca they would score 15 goals a game. Like that's the talent that he is, right? Like if he does everything exactly the right way and takes and wins every successful dribble, wins every ball is the perfect pass. And you know what I mean? Like Barca's scoring 15 goals a game. The other thing that I think that when we say is Lamine Yamal trying to do too much, the reason I say no is because when you look at the role he plays in the team, that is a player who is by design. I mean, look at the way that this team then was against when he came on the field against Celta de Vigo. Look how everything changed, right? He's constantly requiring a double team. He's constantly requiring the opposition to put 2 players on him. And the goal that was scored even against Mallorca, right? That was because for once in that game. Well, no, I'm misremembering. It's the Celta de Vigo game. Yeah, the Celta de Vigo game. For the first time that Celta didn't put an extra man on him when he came on the field, that's when immediately a goal was scored. Just based on game state. And even Mallorca, the same thing. The first time coming out that's what it was against Mallorca as well. Coming out of halftime, for some reason Mallorca fell asleep, and they allowed that run in from Eric Garcia on the overlap because they only had one on Lamine Yamal. And so that other man, instead of being able to shift to Eric to try to cut out that cross, the second man was too late to come to Lamine Yamal, meaning he was behind on the overlap from Eric, and then it was a cutback from Dani Olmo. And so for the one time that Mallorca makes a mistake, that's the one time that Lamine Yamal takes advantage of a 1v1 situation. All right, let me throw these stats at you because, once again, it biases us to the fact that we are watching a prodigious talent for our team, and that's all we're watching, right? And I know we have to watch other wingers too, but we care about what happens. And that caring, that emotion, that bias is I think, just making it seem like the answer might be more than it is. Because he is in the 97th percentile for shots on target, 100th percentile in shots. His XG is higher than his actual goals. He's in the 100 percentile on expected assists. His expected assists and actual assists, he's in the 97th percentile in successful passes, the 100th percentile in successful dribbles, the 100th percentile in touches in the opposition box, the 100th percentile in duels won at in both possession and blocks. He is 94th percentile in ball recoveries and 100 percentile in possession won in the final third. That is a player that defensively is doing more than we think he's doing. That is a player that, in terms of expected assists and creating for his teammates, even in the last 4 weeks, if he's been, doing too much, I don't think he would still be in the 100 percentile on expected assists. As far as taking errant shots or pushing too hard to take shots, he's still in the 97th percentile for shots on target. So it's like as bad as the last 4 weeks would have been. Now, again, all of those numbers do go down in per 90 because he plays so many minutes and so important to Barcelona. But if we're judging him as a starter, which is what he is, we can just do that on total and we don't have to do per 90. But I know those are a lot of boring numbers, but you'll understand that for all the categories I just mentioned, he was in the 94th percentile or higher. So as good as he was in the first, in so many weeks earlier in the season before the last 4 weeks, it hasn't dropped off enough for us to even say it is noticeable in any way. So my answer is not only no, but it's like it's hell no. Like there's no way. Like his shots are on target. Like yes, he doesn't have the scoring touch that even the goal that Arda Güler scored against Adafe yesterday. No, he doesn't have that natural scoring touch. But he turns 18 in July. And I will repeat the point again. If Lamine Yamal figures out how to put the ball in the back of the net as a goal scorer by the time he is 20 years old, let me say that again. In 3 years' time, when he's 20 years old, if he can figure out how to score goals, like I don't know. We did this segment, but it's also like I just know he's not doing too much. He's a 17-year-old kid who is arguably the Ballon d'Or winner if Barcelona win all these trophies. So it's like,
yeah,
I can't say yes. Like I can't do that. Anyway, you can retort, or if not, talking about Ansu and Lamine Yamal kind of does bring up the bigger question that we saw against Mallorca. How does Barcelona survive without Balde and Lewandowski? And I think that is where we begin this Copa del Rey final preview, because Hector Fort started against Mallorca, and I know that a lot of people support him. I like Hector Fort. I was not very high on Gerard Martin for the first few 8 weeks of the season, but I think Gerard Martin's still going to start against Real Madrid in the Copa del Rey final. But I think what we've seen so far in the 3 matches since Balde went down, I don't know how Barcelona survived without Balde, but I think surviving is different than getting a positive result. So Barcelona can suffer because they don't have Balde, but it doesn't mean that that's the reason why Barcelona would not get a positive result in this coming week. The Lewandowski one, that's a bit more interesting, how Barcelona survive in the game states that they have without Lewandowski. So I want to give you I talked for a long time there, but I want to give you a big platform here for how does Barcelona survive without Balde and Lewandowski, and how does that kind of change what Barcelona are going to have to do against Real Madrid in the Copa del Rey final?
Yeah, it's a big one. It's a big one, and I've been trying to answer that question in my head for ever since Balde got injured. But yeah, we'll see. I think with Lewandowski, it's a bit more straightforward. I think Ferran Torres will play, and I think that brings a different aspect to this whole thing. Although I'm just going to throw this out there, I think against Real Madrid, a false nine would do wonders. I think Olmo as a false nine against Madrid specifically would do a lot of damage, because I think Madrid can be drawn out with a false nine. Their back line can be a bit, well, I don't want to say suspect, but they can be a bit off sometimes, especially communication between the two center backs. And they are very prone to ejecting their center backs forward deeper into the midfield if necessary. I think that movement, when you drop a false nine and then have, I don't know, Rafinha or Lamine charging forward, Barcelona have already scored goals against Madrid in that exact same manner. And I think that is the blueprint that can be exploited again with a different player who's not Lewandowski, even though they have done this with Lewandowski on the pitch as well. But in theory, it works better if you have an Olmo. Even Ferran can do it as well. But I think with Ferran on the pitch, you can see how different Barca are. And I think Barca without Lewandowski can be a bit more, not just dynamic, but they can generate a lot more football than do without Lewandowski. But then their finishing is also, I'm not sure, because Lewandowski is the most instinctive finisher in the team. He can do things in the box that no one else can do. So I think that aspect is always going to be there. Now, I think pressing very high and aggressively and counter pressing really well against Madrid is crucial. Now, if you can pin down Madrid and if you can put all the build up responsibility on Courtois, you've already won half the battle. Not that he's bad on the ball, but if you force him to be that leader in the build up, you've done a lot already. And I think what that also does, it forces Bellingham and I don't know, Vinicius or Rodrigo, whoever it is, and Mbappe to be deeper. And if those players are deeper, if Bellingham is not the one who's floating ahead of the double pivot that Madrid usually have, you've already done a lot because you're dampening their attack so much. So I think pressing it will be crucial against Madrid, and pressing will always be better with Ferran. Everyone knows this, but pressing will be better with Ferran there as well. So I think from that perspective against Madrid specifically, that will do us a lot of good. Now, Gerard Martin is obviously not Balde, but defensively he's been decent. I think he's been a quite okay. It's his frame really lends itself to nice tackling. He has long legs. He can wrap himself around attackers. He can really dominate most angles in defense. I like that about him. It's useful, and we have seen him actually press and win the ball, and then Barca generate attacks and even score goals from those moments. I think against Madrid, that could be valuable. And if he's sturdy defensively, again, I think it's going to be enough for us to survive. To your point, without Balde. Now, also at the same time, Gerard Martin has shown some things decent on the ball. I don't like him when he gets a lot of space ahead of him. It's like he doesn't really know what to do with it. So when Balde receives the ball and he has space, you know what he's going to do. He's going to run with the ball. He's going to run through the opposition structure. But Gerard Martin, he's not really sure what to do with the ball. When there's space ahead of him and he has to run with the ball and be incisive with his movement, he doesn't really do it. But then when he has to pass the ball and connect with the players in the center, he can do it. I think he can do it. And if he can even not even create for us, but just be the link that connects the wide areas, the central areas. That's all that he has to do. I don't think he has to be an elite creator or a progressive carrier like Balde. I think what he can do would be enough against this Madrid, especially if the rest of the team play to their level, which I think they will. So from that perspective, I still think with Gerard Martin and Ferran Torres in the lineup and Dani Olmo as number 10, we have all the tools to do a lot of damage. Now, I don't know if Rodrigo's going to play or it's going to be Vinny, Mbappe, and Bellingham and whatever Ancelotti goes with, but I think pressing, how we press, will define how well we do against Madrid. Because I think they don't do well against teams that press them well and force their main players like Bellingham and Rodrigo and Vinny. If we force them deep, that's how we actually win. How we actually force them into uncomfortable situations. So that would be my very, I don't know. It's a short answer, I know, but I think pressing will be key, and then now having Lewandowski actually aids in that department. Now, if we have a game against Madrid the way we did against Mallorca, we can't put anything away. That's a problem, obviously, and that's the problem that usually Lewandowski solves because he can score goals nobody else can. But all those misses, I keep saying, good football will always outpace or just survive the whatever finishing slump that you have. So I think if we generate enough football, I think we will generate enough chances, and if we generate enough chances, we will eventually score goals. So I think I'm confident. I'm fairly confident. I know that we are the favorites going into it, which I'm not always comfortable with because I feel like Madrid, it's the final, and everyone's already saying that we won the title and whatnot, but it's making me very uncomfortable to be in that position for some reason. But we'll see. I think we have the tools, even with Gerard Martin and without Lewandowski. I think we have the tools to do damage. Then
Well, I'm going to put you on the spot. Fans seem to really want to hear this. So, what's your score prediction, or do you want me to give mine first and then give you a chance?
mm, I've been trying to think about that as well. I think for some reason it will be a tighter game than we think it will be. Um, I don't want to go for 3-1 because that's so classic. I'm going to go with.
See, that's what I was going to do.
Yeah, I know,
I'm
I
going
know.
to go
It's
3-1. I'm going to go
it's
3-1.
it's well, that's the easy way out. That's the easy way
Well,
out.
I'm
I
taking
feel
it.
it. All right, okay. I'm gonna go 2-1 for Barca. I'm gonna go 2-1 for Barca. I think it's not gonna be a high scoring game. It might turn out to be a high scoring game, but I think it will be a bit tighter and closer than people think it will be. I think we are the better team, and I think we should win. We well, deserved to win, I would say, even, but there's no such thing as football, right? Um, yeah, 2-1 for Barca. I'm gonna go with that.
Yeah, I mean, I think Real Madrid's also a bit beaten up, even more so than we think. I mean, Bellingham is dealing with that shoulder injury that does look awful painful. We don't,
Mhm.
I mean, he's, of all the players that are carrying injuries, because I've said this before, Conspiracy Dan thinks that Lamine Yamal and Rafinha are both carrying knocks and have been for multiple weeks now. But I think Bellingham's, with that shoulder, you could clearly see he's laboring. They've now lost Camavinga for the season, which is unfortunate for Real Madrid. Alaba is also unavailable for this game. And so Fran Garcia will be starting, according to Ancelotti, at left back. And, again, like Fran Garcia against Gerard Martin, has Fran Garcia really been that much better than Gerard Martin this season? So Real Madrid have just as many problems with their lineups. Mbappe also is coming back, apparently, into the lineup. He'll likely start against Barcelona, but I don't think Mbappe. It's so weird because he's shown us this season that Barcelona should not fear Mbappe returning to the lineup with a wounded Bellingham and then Vinny Jr. and Rodrigo. So yeah, this when you have that kind of talent, though, to your point, it's a final, so anything can happen. It's Real Madrid in a final, whatever it is. But yeah, I think 3-1 is actually pretty healthy because I think that this game, I think to say that Madrid is going to be left out of the back of Barca's net for 90 minutes is naive. But I think in the inverse, as what you were saying, based on the pressing, and I think based on a lineup that with Dani Olmo and Ferran Torres starting, that Hansi Flick is going to be able to put out there. To your point, this game for Barca will come down to finishing, and I like Barca's chances when that is kind of just like the baseline. I do like the fact that remember Ferran Torres still, yeah, he might have struggled a little bit against Mallorca, but he didn't really because he was helping to create chances. So between Olmo and Lamine and Rafinha and Ferran Torres, I think there are some goals in there. And yeah, I like Barcelona against that one. And it feels weird that like Clasico Copa del Rey final, Dom. And I feel like you and we're gonna have a lot more fun doing this last segment here, and that's previewing the Inter Milan thing because I think Real Madrid and Barcelona. Not to say you throw tactics out the window, but I think we're so familiar with them. We know what Real Madrid is, right? Like as as fun as it is to say, oh, well, Rodrigo is the kind of guy like his movement is really what changed everything with Bellingham, and we can have a little bit of fun with that. But like, yeah, it comes down to Vinny Jr. on the left side, just kind of having some fun. It comes down to Mbappe just finishing chances. It comes down to how well they can get out on the break, how well they can attack you on the counter. Like that's what it comes down to Real Madrid, and they haven't shown you anything else other than Modric coming on late as kind of an unbalancer of the game. I think Real Madrid they're how do I say this? They're a bit predictable in the way that they're going to go about this approach. And I think for Inter Milan, I know you've done some of your homework and I've done some of my homework too. What I find to be really interesting about Simeone Inzaghi's team, and we're going to expect to see a 3-1-5-2 formation. There we go, with two strikers. Marcus Thuram is likely going to be unavailable, so that does change a bit. And I think you and I both, I watched a bit of the Inter Milan against AC Milan, Coppa Italia semifinal yesterday as the point that we're recording this. And as scary as Inter Milan is, there is a decision, I think, that not that Hansi Flick is going to have to make, that Inzaghi is going to have to make that's going to decide this game. Inter Milan play two ways. They either play in a low block and they commit to that, and they do different things by that. If they do a low block, they do underlapping runs from their center backs. They have a lot of movement between their two strikers, and they try to get one of them in behind, playing really compact, narrow while attacking. They also look to score at the back post when they play in that low block. The other thing that they would do is either a low block or it's a high press. They don't do both. So what I like about Inter Milan and when they're playing their best, why they're so dangerous. They tend to play very compact. They squeeze the pitch when defending, and then they try to spread you out wide because they have the wing backs, and they get up high, and they look to horizontally spread you out and throw a lot of numbers forward in the box that way. So they either do that with the low block and kind of they're in their little turtle shell and they come out of it, or they press high in a man-to-man. And I'm interested to see what Inzaghi is going to do because I think the low block, you are then entertaining the idea that Barcelona getting a lot of chances in that game. And you're giving yourself more variance to say, all right, Rafinha, run at us. Lamine Yamal, okay, we're going to play in a low block. Lamine Yamal, have your fun. We're going to defend you. And I think that's risky for Inzaghi to do. But the other option about that high press in the man-to-man, Pedri might be the most man-to-man press-resistant player in the entire world. So if you're going to high press Pedri, good luck. You better figure some things out. Now, what they do in the inverse on the counter, what makes them so dangerous, I want to add this little note as well. They are constantly looking, and I know Hansi Flick is looking at the tape already. They're constantly looking when you press them to then play in behind your press. So if the right back has it, or the wing back, or if it's more commonly, the right back is going to be high. It's a right wing back. And then the center back is going to come over and try to build up farther on the wing. Where if you wound up pressing Inter Milan well and you turn one of those center backs over when they go out to the wing, now you've got the middle of the field. Because they also have a center back that tend to step and press in the midfield as well if they're playing in the high press. Okay, so there's space in the middle for those runs from Rafinha or Ferran into the half spaces behind that third center back that steps into the middle. But if they're building up from the back and that third center back goes wide, he then is looking to play in behind the space from the player for Barca that would then be pressing. I know that was very complicated, but it's really simple. Like it's like they in ultimate frisbee, and this is a weird thing I'm saying ultimate frisbee as opposed to soccer, but in ultimate frisbee we say you jam it up the jam hole, meaning Inter Milan is very comfortable trying to continue to play multiple passes on the same third of the field in behind the player that is pressing. So if it's Rafinha who's pressing, then that right center back is going to look to play that pass in behind Rafinha to the space that he then vacates by trying to press him. Right, so you have a midfielder then running into that space in usually one of the double pivots, or the attacking midfielder comes back. Then when he receives it, now the striker is looking to run in behind on a diagonal run on the same final third that you then have Barcelona's likely midfielder trying to press in that space. So Inter Milan is very methodical in the way that they build up and try to exploit in behind a press themselves. And I think that is where Barcelona could be susceptible to danger and counters. If Inter Milan can play those passes quickly in the same final third and then get a switch off, I think Barcelona can be susceptible to that. But other than that, everything that I tactically laid out for you, Domagoj, and you can add nuance to this as well, I think that Barcelona a good spot. And I think if Inzaghi plays a low block, there are weaknesses to it that AC Milan exploited. And if they then choose to high press in the man-to-man, I think Pedri and Olmo, and there are players that Barcelona has that also mean that may not be the best strategy for Inter either. So I think it's a really, really tough choice that Inzaghi has to make that could make or break this tie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think there's a lot there.
I know there's too much there. I know. I apologize. That's on me.
Yeah, that's fine. Let me see what I can pick out from that, and then go from there. Let's tackle the Inter in possession first, because now with no Thuram, that changes a lot. That really changes a lot. Lautaro and Thuram together, I think that's what kind of defines the whole Inter structure. They're obviously different profiles. Lautaro, we know that he's more of a second striker, always the pair to someone who's a bit more physical, a bit more of a traditional striker, and that's still the way Inter play. And Lautaro will be the guy that will drop a bit deeper and drag players away. And Inter really what they like to do is they like to isolate their forward line with the defenders. So if they can get a 2 versus 2 or 3 versus 3 in their forward line while they are building from the back and getting pressed, that is what they want to do, right? That's what they want to achieve. Now, without Thuram, who even plays instead of Thuram? Do we know? I'm not even sure who's going to play, but it will change a lot. Now, they do have some mechanisms or tendencies that kind of play well into Barca.
It's Taremi, who's a more natural, prototypical big body number 9. So it is Taremi. He'll definitely start. He started against Milan. I would expect him to start.
Okay, yeah. So there we go. So the dynamics won't change much then. It's just the names that change. Obviously, a drop of quality would be expected a bit, but it's the same principles will apply. The things that I have seen mostly is with the 3-man backline in build up. I think that's one thing that's a hard counter to the way Barca normally press. Now, this might change. This might change mostly because do we have Lewandowski for that game? Probably not, right? Or probably
not for the first leg. Balde and Lewandowski, you can count them out for the first leg.
Right, so Lewandowski won't play, so we can probably expect Ferran to start again, which the same points from the Madrid game, some of the points do transfer to the Inter Milan game as well. And I think the pressing wise, it might change our structure. We might see something that's different than the usual, 2 players centrally drop deep and then the wingers collapse. I think that setup is not that well built to press a 3-man backline as it is. And not only that, but also Inter are built to kind of play through a man marking press. And Barca do like to be man to man with the press. Now Inter can exploit that. And what you said about when Rafinha goes in and then they play over him or in the space behind him, they do like to do that. So if they have a 3-man back line and the opposition kind of tries to press them towards the wide side, towards the flanks, they will aim to play the ball over that structure into the middle third, where there's usually a striker or an additional midfield, or probably a striker, probably Lautaro floating ahead of the double pivot. He will be in that area, and that's what the area that they'll try to access. So they will either go to him directly from the back line, so from the wide areas directly into Lautaro between the lines, and then Lautaro will just try and flick the ball as quick as possible into the front line again. Or additionally, they can also try and go directly into the big striker, who will then obviously try and hold up play and then lay it off into Lautaro, whoever it is, a bit deeper. And they are very good at actually going from point A to point B, or their own goal to the opposition goal, in very few passes. They can do this in 2 or 3 passes, and they're already off to the races. And in that sense, I think they do have tools that are that are counters to what we normally do. But yeah, but normally is the key word here, because Flick might change the way we press, or maybe should change the way we press, because our normal way of pressing, as I've tried to explain there, is when the striker drops next to the number 10, we have 2 of them on the double pivot, and we have the 2 wingers collapsing onto the center backs. That won't really work, because Inter will most likely have a 3-man back line. And that would mean that we have to adjust, because we can't press 3 players with 2 of our own. So from that perspective, I think Flick will need to change something if we're going to press high, and we will definitely press high. So I would say that's kind of the thing with them in possession. They are also they can be very dynamic, right? They can interchange positions a lot. They move a lot in that middle third of the pitch as well. I think they have all of those floaters, so to speak. But again, a lot of what they do is usually dependent on the Lautaro and Thuram partnership. Now we have seen them lose against Milan. I'm not saying they lost because they don't have Thuram, but it is a big miss for them. And then obviously you still have other key players. I mean, Bastoni as well. He has the tools to to adapt to every scenario in every game, right? He can break lines through ball carrying. He can connect with players wide. So there will be multiple players that we have to keep an eye on, but I do wonder how much of what they normally do, how much of their instinctive dynamics that they have on the pitch change now that Thuram's not available, and how does that affect them? But I think they will try and do the same things that we've just talked about, because the profile, they'll try to replace Thuram with a similar profile, as you said. It's the same mold of a striker who's going to replace him, but a dip in quality should be probably expected. So I still believe that they do have the tools to hurt us, especially because they can play through a man-to-man press, and our press will need tweaking for it to work against this Inter team specifically. So that will be my in possession summary. I'm not sure if you want to add something before we go to the off the ball, because yeah, that will be the next thing.
Well, yeah, in possession, they also tend to score a lot at the back post. That's like
Uh-huh.
a marquee calling card of theirs. I'm not saying that Barcelona are any worse or better than other teams in world football at defending that, but that's just
Yeah.
something that happens with them a lot. Yeah, in possession, as you said, they can be really dangerous. But the counter to that was what I saw against AC Milan. That I thought,
Yeah.
Inter Milan was kind of on the front foot in that game. They kind of dominated them with the ball. But to that point, the Taremi not being as mobile as Thuram, you could tell it just hurt the whole fluidity of the
Yeah.
team. And where they struggled was then in the final third. There was no clinical, not even finishing, but there was no final ideas that
Mm-hmm.
usually Thuram creates that space for you to do it. Taremi just didn't do that. So I think what we saw was an Inter Milan against AC Milan that was still the same Inter Milan on the front foot, building up with confidence, exploiting the space, using those wing backs, and creating those different game states. But then they were just incapable of that final bit of movement necessary to kind of take AC Milan. AC Milan, I think, defensively handled them rather well when Inter had the ball. And that's why, again, they end 3-0 because AC Milan winds up getting 2 counters. So to your point of them without the ball, this is where I think, again, my slight advantage in this tie goes to Barca, because as dangerous as Inter can be on the counter, I think Inter has shown, even with that 3-5-2, you think, oh, they have three center backs. They have shown a proclivity to being susceptible to counters. Like AC Milan just showed to the blueprint. And it is interesting to me that that Luka Jovic, the former Real Madrid but Eintracht Frankfurt striker, hurt them so much because, if anything, you'd want Lewandowski's profile in there as opposed to Ferran Torres. But to your point, the pressing of Ferran Torres might be more important against Inter Milan with a three at the back. So I think, yeah, it's a bit of a give and take, even if Lewandowski was available. So I think the cool thing about Barcelona, the cool thing, would be that I think that Hansi Flick could throw some different ideas. If something doesn't work in the first leg, and I know you're at home, but you do still have, if unless the scoreline gets out of hand, you still have some things up your sleeve in the second half. And my interesting thing that I want to throw back to you is with them out of possession, when Barcelona in possession, both countering and in slow build up in different game states, the Lamine Yamal matchup is going to be hard. Like no matter what, that left wing back, and I believe it's DeMarco. Is he on the right? Whichever side he's on, they either it's going to be tough because I think you have to either choose to push forward and leave some space in behind for Lamine Yamal to get into. But like that three at the back as well. If you're gonna step that third center back forward as the six, which is how they build up a lot, if you misplay a ball or you give a ball away on one of those crosses at the back post that you have, and it gets cleared properly to Barcelona, I mean, that's how AC Milan scored one of their goals, was that it gets cleared and it goes out to Lamine Yamal, and now you only have, it's a 1v1 situation. I think that's where Inter Milan can be exposed quite a bit. And I actually, as much as I think of Inter Milan, this 3-5-2 as a dangerous counterattacking side, I think Barca's counter with Lamine Yamal and Rafinha is much more dangerous. And I think in my mind's eye, what I'm seeing is that the middle center back, in usually it's De Vrij, will step forward, and I can easily see a 2v2 situation on the counter with Lamine Yamal delivering a pass to Rafinha, who's the other runner, with Ferran Torres or Lewandowski. As we usually see, whoever's playing Barca's number 9, they're the ones that come deeper than Rafinha and Lamine Yamal on to defend the set pieces for the opposition. And so I could see if you get a 2v2 situation with Rafinha and Lamine Yamal, I love that against Inter Milan. So I do actually give Barcelona the slight advantage. We'll say defending set pieces and defending deep. If you're not beat and they're able to get out, I think they're actually more dangerous than Inter Milan.
Yeah, I would agree with that, and I think Barca do have ways to get out. So Inter Milan, I think they are built to built to press high. They are a team that likes to do that, and they will do as you put up earlier. Then they will do it in a kind of man-oriented way, and they like to put numbers forward. They will. There's no set structure really. It can be like a 4-4-2 or something, but they will do man-to-man. And what they really like to do, they like to send you wide. So they like when the position kind of try and build up from the back, and then they go to the I don't know to the fullback, and then they will collapse and they will try and create that +1 or try to overload that wing. Now that obviously can work really well if you can crowd the flank and then not let the opposition actually play through or over or around that little overload that you created. Now Barca have the tools, number one, to play through that because they have technical quality. They also have the tools, like you mentioned, Pedri or De Jong. I think De Jong will also play from the start. I think those players, Barca need to play through them. They need to bank on them being these press resistant players that we know they are, and actually play through that press. Now, if Barca can actually recycle the ball and access the other side of the pitch when Inter are trying to overload, because what the Inter will do generally is they will send you out wide, and then the ball far fullback, so the fullback on the other side, who is tasked or the winger or the wing back, whatever he is, on the other side will press the Barca fullback. But once the play is shuffled wide and once Inter try and overload the other side, that opposite side wingback will abandon his marker more often than not, and he will go into the midfield to create a +1 in the midfield. But that also means that the far side fullback is free, and also the center back on the other side can also receive the ball. So if Barca can recycle possession and play through that overload that Inter creates, and if they can access the fullback on the other side, you basically have a free man that can then run into space. I think teams have done this to Inter in the past, and I think this is one way that Barca can actually hurt them and play through the press or play out of the press, however you want to say it, and then do whatever they want to do later on, conquer territory and move the play a bit forward. into a game set where they can actually pin Inter back. And as you said as well, I think if Inter are pinned back and if they are trying to survive, quote unquote, Barca's barrage attacks, I think that suits us a bit more. I think we have the tools to then break them down. Because if yes, I know that people think, okay, Inter are this indomitable force in defense. They're not. They can be breached. They can be actually. They can be. There are faults in that structure that can be taken advantage of, especially for a team of Barca's caliber and the players that we have. And again, to your point, if we do manage to get Lamine and Rafinha in isolations, I think that again, it suits us a lot more, obviously. But yes, I think in regards to their high press and us playing through that high press, I would generally favor us in almost all the situations because I think we have the personnel to play or just resist the press, but also we have the mechanisms and the quality to play around their press and then act as the free man that they willingly, quote unquote, willingly let be free, because that's the risk they take when they are trying to press you high. They will try to overload you, but yeah, that obviously means that somewhere out there always is a free man that Barca can access. Now, would they be able to access that man? That's the question. But I think with the quality that we have, and with I think with Pedri and De Jong, I think we have the tools to play through that. And there was also a question: okay, do we maybe start Araujo because Inter are a physical side? We start Araujo to counter that. But then if Inter press you high and you have Araujo in there, I think Flick will always try and go with more technical quality, with more attacking prowess than trying to solidify the defense. So I think with Inigo and Kubarsi, which will probably be the center back pairing, and Koundé and then Pedri and De Jong kind of dropping deep to support, we have more than enough to actually not just survive the Inter press, but actually play through it and then exploit the willing risks that they are willing to take in those scenarios. So I don't want to say I'm overconfident, but I'm pretty confident we can play through that and not just survive that, but actually take advantage of it.
Yeah, I think Inzaghi would really like to see Araujo in the starting lineup because of how comfortable Inter Milan is in that low block to that point. I think they would be willing to absorb that pressure and allow Araujo to be the man on the ball quite a bit. I think they would be confident in that. Yeah, I agree with the same sentiments you have. This coming week is such a big week, arguably the biggest week since you and I have started doing this Barca stuff, like near a decade for both of us. And so it's like, I think for such a big week, I keep saying on the watch alongs, which I always employ you, bigup.com, pod. If you're one of Dom's followers on Barca football, I do the watch alongs for the game, and then I'm going to let you plug this as well. But so really easy match day. Here's what you're going to do. You're going to go on bigup.com. You're going to watch me on the watch along, join the chat, come on stage, have some fun. Then you're going to jump over to Twitter immediately post game, and you're going to talk with Domagoj and Dev. That's immediately what you're going to do. This is your to-do list. You're going to go to watch along with me. Then you're going to immediately do post game. Then by that time, you go back to youtube.com and you're going to find my 5 headlines after the match, right? So that's how you're going to enjoy this coming week. You're going to do that for both the games. You're going to just both of those steps, or those 3 of those steps. That's what you're going to do. And yeah, Domagoj, is there a better pitch for why they should be doing all those things on Saturday for Copa del Rey and then Wednesday for Inter Milan?
No, that about sums it up. Thank you for that. Yeah, I mean, we will be doing our coverage as well, and we'll have to do something together as well, Dan, with your watch alongs. I've been trying to see. I've never done a watch along before. That will be my first time, and I will try and come on once with you at least, and see how that goes. But yes, guys, we've been doing a lot of stuff as we I keep saying that. I think we are doing really, really good stuff, but we just lack the visibility. We somehow don't promote ourselves enough, and most people don't know that we have a YouTube channel, that we have an Instagram profile, a TikTok profile. We have everything, right? But no one really knows that we are everywhere out there. When we start doing shorts as well, my shorts are, they are a bit, the editing can be a bit funny and not at the highest of quality, but we're trying to expand and do more things. And as always, the blog is going strong. We will be releasing some very exciting stuff on the blog as well, something that we've never done before. I can't really reveal too much, but it will soon be out there for everyone to see and enjoy, hopefully.
Well, Dom, you sent out a tweet that you think that that of all the content that you create, that you think that you're the best Barca content there is. And here's what I'll say: the blog does set you apart. I have Barca blog, but the stuff that you put on there is just That is above my threshold of time. The dedication of time to
I
write the stuff
know.
that you do. Yeah, that just certainly sets you apart. So I think what you and Dev are doing at Barca Football is certainly awesome. You always have a friend in the Barcelona pod, as you know. So cool. So yeah, they have all that covered on Barca Football. Please subscribe to both of us everywhere on YouTube. I also have a TikTok that gets less than 10 views per. That's a story for another day, but they get less than 10 views per. What are they called? Talks or ticks? Whatever they are. Like, so TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, whatever's left of it, Facebook, all those different things, Discord, Patreon. My goodness, you can find us everywhere. So you can take a whole half an hour, do all those things so you don't miss all the content we have. Because again, with this big week, what I enjoy the most about it is the Barca community. You've been supportive to me when the times are bad, and you've been supportive now in the times are good. So as always, until next time, Forza Barca.